So many years ago, the second year I was ordained a priest, I was in Idaho Falls, and this young woman of the parish, she lost a young child, a baby. And so at a daily Mass, we prayed for her. And after Mass, this just moved me. After Mass, one of our parishioners who was above 80, and anyhow, I was in the vestry, derobing, and she comes in with her walker, and she says, Father, I have to disagree with what you said during the homily. I said something kind of stupid. And, well, you guys are used to that. And she says, I have to disagree with you. And she says, when I was a young woman, I too lost a child, and I love that child to this day. And even though that young woman doesn't know it, her life has been incredibly blessed that she's got to love that baby for a while. And she says, if you think about it, she said, we only get to hold each other for a few days, a few years, and then life is all over. And she said, yes, I carry that pain around every day of my life, but even that pain, and I miss my child, it's made my life better. I take life more serious, and I take life less serious. And she gave this little speech, and she starts to cry about she still misses her child. And I started to cry, but it really did move me. And what moved me about it is that actually is great wisdom. When she said, we only get to hold each other for a few days or a few years, and then life is over. Why not make some very wise choices then? And I only mention that story because that's kind of the philosophy behind the book of Ecclesiastes. And so what I want to do tonight is just talk about the book of Ecclesiastes, which I've never done, really at least a whole homily on it, because it is kind of the least favorite book in the Bible. And I'm a nerd, so I love it. But it is the least favorite because it deals with kind of, you're going to die. There you go. That's the news of Ecclesiastes. It's kind of like when I go to visit my doctor. He always says, well, if you live long enough, you're going to get cancer. And I said, it's talk like that doesn't make me really happy to see you again. But it's true. What's the future for all of us? Yes, it's going to be death. And the point of Ecclesiastes is then make some very wise choices. And Ecclesiastes, the guy who's talking, his name is Koheleth. Sorry, that's actually not his name. That's a title. Like what we're doing tonight would be actually in Hebrew called Kahal Yahweh. It's when you gather the people together for a sacrifice. That's a Kahal, the community of God. So Koheleth, he is, you can hear the name, a gatherer. So he gathers people together for a sacrifice, and he teaches. That's what a Koheleth is. And he's not the author of the book. He's a character in the book. He would translate in English as teacher. He's a religious teacher. And so I love this book. So this is going to be, I'm going to tell you my theory on it. So who is this person? And some people say, oh, it's Solomon, because think about this. His name is Koheleth. He's a religious teacher. He's son of David. He's a shepherd. And he will also, his words will be what your life will be judged on at the end of your life. Well, that doesn't sound like Solomon. Solomon divided the kingdom. So who is it? If you're a Catholic and if you're a Christian, who is it who for us is the teacher, the one who gathers people together, who will be our judge at the end of our life, and is who also our shepherd? Anybody know? Please get this right. Anybody want to take a guess? Oh, good, you got it. Yes, it's Christ. And then you have the author, and the author is unnamed. So who is the author of all wisdom? Unnamed. God the Father. And then you have also one more. You have, at the very end of the story, you have the voice of the author. And the voice of the author just deconstructs and helps you remember what Koheleth, the words of Koheleth. So who is the voice that helps you remember what the teacher said? Oh, good. These people are on fire. Yes, it's the Holy Spirit. So that's my interpretation. So you can easily Christianize this. So what are the words of Kohelet? We just had a little fragment. His favorite word is, like today when it says vanities of vanities, that's actually not what the Hebrew says. What the Hebrew says is this, and you have to learn this word. You have to use this word 10 times tonight before you go to bed. And the word is hevel. Hevel, in Hebrew, it means like a vapor, kind of like fog, or you could say smoke, but it's really a vapor. And it says hevel. Everything is hevel. Everything in life is hevel. And it's a metaphor that life is like this wisp of vapor. It's here and then it's gone. Everything in life, it's going to come to an end. The other metaphor for it is that like a fog bank, it looks solid, but you can't really ever grasp it. And the point of that is life is enigmatic. Life is a paradox. And if everything is hevel, if everything's just going to come and go, then you want to make sure you invest your life right. And a lot of people, they invest their life in greed, but they'll spend their life and they'll get nothing out of it. Or they'll spend their life seeking power and they'll be angry, and anger gives you a sense of power, but it's meaningless hevel. It goes nowhere. Or you can seek your life being Kim Kardashian and having a lot of Facebook friends, but that's not a relationship. That's useless hevel. And so you want to cut out all things that are useless. And there is also meaningful hevel. Yes, it's temporary and changing, but it has a lot of meaning. And what that is wisdom and love and caring for other people. That makes your life meaningful. It is hevel, but there's some real advantages to it. Because, yes, it's hevel, but what you can discover is the divine. You can find the infinite, which is God, in just this little bit of time that we have on earth, if you choose wisely. But, some people, they just choose, pleasure. And you can do that, go for that, but on Monday, the bill will come. So why not spend your life really going for meaningful choices? And the point of Kohelet is this. 7 times he says this. Now, just FYI, anytime you get the number 7 in the Bible, you're making a contract, a way of life. So like we have 7 sacraments, but it's really a way of life we're agreeing to. Or you do something 7 times, it could be for a way of life that's bad. And 7 times, Kohelet says, life is very short. So the one thing you want to do is enjoy and treasure the important things of life, which is every single moment. You want to really treat richly. So when you sit down with your family for dinner, don't spend it arguing and fighting about stupid things. Really enjoy your time together. When you're at the grocery store and you're talking to the grocery clerk, don't treat her like a slave. Enjoy the relationship there. Enjoy the remains of this sunset of the day. You want to enjoy it because it's hevel. It's gone like a wisp of smoke. The old mother who said, listen, we get to just hold each other for a few days or a few years, she's right. If that's true, in Ecclesiastes, you want to make the right choices. And the other point I like is that the teacher is also a shepherd, his words are. And a shepherd at the end of his staff is a goad, it's a point. And what the shepherd does is, with his sheep, he kind of jabs them, he kind of pokes them. I wish I had a sharp stick to do that. But not to hurt the sheep, just to kind of move them along. Because all of life is the shepherd, the teacher, is trying to move you deeper into wisdom and deeper into love. And even religion. Like, I love this line where he says, wisdom's often not what you think it is. What you think wisdom is when you're 20 is not when it is when you're 50. Or love. Like you guys have been married, 10 years? More than that. But really, if their definition of love is the same as the day that they got married, it's probably going to turn out to be very oppressive. Wisdom, it's enigmatic, it's paradoxical. Love is too. And he says religion is. He says, about his words, he says, with religion, you don't want to be too, I'm going to phrase this right, you don't want to be too stern and stiff about it. Because in other words, if you think you have all the answers when it comes to religion, you'll be very oppressive towards other people. The words may not, they're paradoxical. You might not get the full meaning, but over a lifetime. And so the shepherd keeps kind of poking you and to move you along. And that's God's mercy. So just to explain that, because I love this concept. The mercy of God is not when God just treats you nice. The mercy of God is when God pokes you to move a little deeper, to make wise, rich choices. And you've heard of the wrath of God, which is the opposite. The wrath of God, and this is always misunderstood by people. When they say, the wrath of God, the wrath of God is not God being vindictive. That, all right, you broke the rules, so God is going to give you a canker sore. That's what a lot of people think the wrath of God is. The wrath of God is this. You don't want me to poke you? Fine. Be on your own then. And we'll see where that goes. And it always goes to destruction. The wrath of God is not when God harasses us. The wrath of God is when God stops poking us. And at the end of our life, and I love this, at the end of life we'll be judged whether we made wise choices or foolish choices. And this is kind of shocking, and I love it in Ecclesiastes. You'll be judged on not, did you sin in the sense of, did you obey all the religious rules and regulations? That's not the morality of Ecclesiastes. It's not whether you sinned or didn't sin. The morality of Ecclesiastes is, in your brief moments of life, did you make wise choices? Did you invest in love and wisdom? If you did that, you made wise choices. And at the end, you'll be judged. And the judgment will be this. Either you'll be wise or you'll be a fool. So think of Christ as Kohelet. And in today's gospel, this guy comes to Jesus and says, Jesus, my brother cheated me out of my inheritance. Tell him to give me my inheritance. Well, technically that's a sin. And if Jesus is a religious person, a moral person, he would say, absolutely. That's a sin. You give him his money back. But Jesus doesn't say that. He's like Kohelet. It's not about what's a sin. It's about what's important. And so Jesus basically says to the guy, your problem is not that your brother cheated you. Your problem is you're a fool. You think riches and getting your fair share of the inheritance is important. That's hevel. It comes and goes. Your brother has no advantage. Your problem is that you're blind to what's really important. Aren't you kind of shocked by that answer? Jesus doesn't say, you're right, that's a sin. He says, no, you're a fool. And Jesus, when it comes to wealth, in the Gospel of Luke, he talks about it more than any other gospel. 1 out of 7 verses is about wealth. And it's not that if you have wealth, God has blessed you. That's American Protestantism. Actually, in the Gospel of Luke, if you have wealth, and Luke's community was wealthy, that means you have responsibility. That's what that means. It doesn't mean God loves you anymore. It means you have responsibility. So you can't let greed blind you. You have to make wise choices. And I think that's amazing. So just think about this for a week. At the end of your life, even if you obeyed all the religious rules and regulations, what was really important in life, really treasuring moments and people. The guy in the parable, Jesus says, you're like this guy in the parable. He has everything, but 7 times he uses the word I. He's concerned about nobody else. He's a narcissist. And the guy in the parable, he didn't commit any sins. He didn't commit any sins. But when he dies, God's going to look at him and say, you fool. You missed out on what's most important. So just as this, Hopefully we're like the old mother, who, yes, she mourns the loss of her child, but she has this rich idea about life to treasure every moment. And she's right. We only get to hold each other for a few moments or years. Let's make some very wise choices so that when we die, even if we haven't sinned, God won't say, "You fool." So together, let us stand.